Okay. So in this meeting, again, this is for fiscal. Previously, you have received an email from our office regarding the instructions for the invoice and how to enter those through the e2Fulton system. That information gives you a kind of general outline of what is to happen and what you need to do in order to enter an invoice into the system. For any future use, questions, you can result to this for any questions you may have regarding that, or you may contact our office. So we will be joined and led by RDE Robert, who is going to lead you through a demo as far as how to enter in those specific information for your invoices for your fiscal appointees. So at this time, we're going to turn over to Robert, and he's going to lead this part of the demo and the training session for you all to see exactly how to enter in that information to e2Fulton. Robert?
Hello, everyone. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, hello, everyone. I'm Robert Fulgar. I'm a developer and project manager here at RTE. And like Warren said, I'll be going over the fiscal module today to show you how to enter your invoices into e2Fulton. So let me just share my screen. All right. So on my screen right now, this is just a general client search screen. So I'm logged in as a provider. And this is just the main page that I will show up as. So for anyone who currently has access to the ECM module, you will also have access to the fiscal module. So the new tab is called Fiscal, and it's going to be right next to the Procurement tab. So if you click on that, it'll bring you to the fiscal module. Here you'll have the ability to select a contract that you want to enter for. So in this case, a Part A contract, and select the month that you wish to enter as well. So for this case, we're in July, we can select the July month. You'll also see next to each month there is a status text next to each month, so you can see at this point no months have been submitted, and also that status is reflected below. So you'll have a not yet submitted status. There's also a rejected, submitted to Fulton County reviewed status, and approved status. Also right next to it is our unlocked or locked icon. So for contracts that have not been submitted or have been rejected, they'll be unlocked, so you'll be able to do data entry and make changes to your invoice. Otherwise, if it's been submitted or approved, that month will be locked. In that case, you cannot make any changes to that invoice for that month, and it'll have to be you'll have to contact Fulton County to reject that month if there's a change that needs to be done to that. But once you enter the fiscal module, you'll be on the Reports subtab. And on this tab, you'll first see just the budget summary table. So there'll be, at this point, no data entry here. You'll just solely see a table. To access the data entry, you'll just simply select a category. So in this case, we're going to go to personnel first. And you just simply click on that column. That column will now be, or that row will now be highlighted. And down below, you'll see a grid for data entry. So to add a new record, we're going to click New Entry. And above, you'll have two drop-down options for personnel. So for everything under personnel and priority category, this will be reflective of what was entered in your ECM contract for the Part A or your specific contracts. So for all your data entry items, this is what will be reflected here. So in this case, we're going to select Personnel 1. These are just scrambled names right now. And their priority categories. Again, this is coming from that ECM contract. So if they had multiple priority categories assigned to them, you'll be able to select which one. Then below, you'll have a budget and available funds. So the budget is what was contracted to them on the ECM module, and the available fund is what is currently available that has not been expended at this point. So we have no budget fund expended here, so we have the full amount available. Finally, we can select your expenditure for that month. In this case, we'll do $100. You'll select your FTE amounts. So if there's only a single FTE, in this case, we select that amount. Otherwise, if there was multiple FTEs entered, you can select which ones would apply. And then our cost is automatically calculated, so of a 0.5% of $100 FTE. We have our contract cost of $5. There was no admin cost associated to this client, so it's 0. Our fringe rate was set at 25.14%. So we have a fringe cost of 1.26. So we can save that. And now our record is below. So we have our data entry record here. You can click on the plus sign to view any data entered. Or if there's any edits, you can simply click on the edit button and make changes to your expenses. Now it's recommended to only make edits to expenses. If you need to make a change to the personnel or priority category, it's best to just simply delete that individual item and just re-enter it. Only expenditures amount should be made as edits. And there's also one additional field available, so there is an adjustment field. So for whatever reason, if you need to adjust the amount, say we actually wanted him to go to $15, so we can add an extra $10 adjustment. Now the contract cost is the $15, and our fringe rate also went up as well. So that works both ways. So if we want to also subtract $1, it will also subtract that amount from the total cost. So we can save that as well and have that reflected. So here we just entered a personnel record. So we have $4 contract costs. If you go to the above, we'll have our categories available here. So the budget summary has your main categories, again, reflected from that ECM module. The contracted budget per category, any prior expenses. So these prior cumulative expenses will show only the approved months that had been approved by Fulton County. So if you're submitting for July, August, and September, unless those contracts have been approved, these will still remain 0. So don't worry if you're entering for future months and you don't see anything under the prior cumulative. It just needs to be approved, and once that has been done, those numbers will be reflected here. Under current expenses for reimbursement, we just had our sample personnel entry made. So we have a record for $4 for that personnel, and the same for fringe costs. The remaining balance is now updated, just subtraction from the contract costs. The year-to-date expenditures at this point is only 1, so it's $4, and then your expended amount to date. So similarly for all the remaining items, so if we were to go down to other now, you'll be able to enter your expenditures. So simply, again, click New Entry. You can select your particular line item that you have available from your ECM module. You also have the ability to type in a search. So for personnel or line items, you can just simply type it in, so you don't have to scroll through 100 records if there's a large amount of personnel. So it will populate your budget and available funds.
Robert, can you slow down? I think you're going too fast.
Sorry, yes.
I don't think people are going to be able to remember any of this if we just zoom through it.
Apologies. Yeah, so again, so for any category you wish to enter under, you just simply select that category by clicking. You'll have a grid pop up below with your entries available. You click New Entry Item for that month. And then you go into your contract items. So these are what's reflected under the ECM module that you have entered. You select a particular line item that you wish to make a payment under. You have the ability, again, to type in or search for a particular line item for like the personnel or the contract items. So you can type it in or manually search. Click on it. It'll populate your budgets and available funds. Next, you enter in your expenditure for that amount. You have the ability to enter an adjustment if applicable, and then it'll calculate automatically based on what was entered under ECM. Your contract cost, so it was $100, and there was no admin cost entered for this line item, so it's 0. And there's also optional descriptions and notes that you can enter for your line items. So once that is all complete, you click Save, and it's entered under that record. The table above is updated, so you'll see your reflected $100 amount here. and all the other fields for remaining balance and year-to-date expenses are also updated. And this will follow the similar way as for all your other remaining categories. So client travel, staff travel, equipment, contractual, supplies, and other will all work the same way. Fringe is the only column that you cannot select because that is auto-populated based on your personnel. But all the other ones, you simply will just click on that record, and that grid will update below with all your entries. Are there any questions with the fiscal module and entering your particular invoices or for the individual line items? All right. So we will continue on. So the next tab you have available is the View Full Report tab. So this tab is simply a view-only report. So you can see at a glance all your line item entries and have the ability also to enter notes on this tab. So on the View Report tab, you still have the same contract and month selection options. It is still set at the ones we have currently set for July. You have your budget summary table available. Again, the same one as the previous tab, excluding you cannot click on it, so you won't bring up that grid. Then again, this is just simply view only. And then below, we have all our records that we have entered. So it has our personnel, the priority category we selected, our expenditure, and all the other information that was entered. So we have our adjustment as well, contract costs, and any admin amounts. As we scroll down, it goes through each category. In this case, we don't have any data available since we did not enter them. And if we go to the last one, other, we also have one available here, and that shows our record that we entered. So one unique feature of this screen is that you have the ability to enter notes. This will probably be more in the use of when Fulton County is reviewing, and if they were to reject a report, they will have the ability to enter notes, but you still have the ability at this point to enter a note. So under each line item, you'll see a little icon, a little note icon. If you were to click it, you have an ability above to enter any notes. So I can just put test personnel and save it. And now that note is saved. So I can close that. And if I were to refresh this page again, you'll see that below that particular line item, there is now a note displayed. So it'll display your date, the time, and the personnel or the user who entered that particular note. And you can write whatever text that's related to this, that this personnel needs an expenditure amount increase because we spent more this month. Also, you'll see that the note icon is now yellow. So that indicates that there is a note also available under this personnel. Again, if I were to click it again, you'll see a list of all the personnel. And if I needed to, I can enter an additional note as well and just continue on that same process. Another thing to note is that for providers, you'll see your notes entered in blue. When I go in the future steps, you'll see that Fulton County notes will be in red. So it's an easy way for you to distinguish what Fulton County is requesting and what is from notes from a provider. So again, this is just a view only tab, just simply to help you see at a glance all the categories so you don't have to scroll through and click for each individual item.
So quick question, Robert.
All
Once they're here,
yes.
Can they go back to reports and add more?
Yes.
Okay.
So at any time, you can go back to the reports tab. As long as you see the unlocked icon, you are good to enter more information. So if I were to go back now and go to the other category again, so I have nutrition therapy there. I want to now do food bank. So I can simply go back here, add another item. So now I have food bank and medical nutrition therapy. So it's now $300. I can go back to view full reports. Again, the same amounts are reflected. and I can go down and I can see every item. So if I need to enter a note here as well, I can enter my notes here, and that will simply update as well. Any other questions with the View Full Report tab?
I had a question, Robert.
Yes.
When you type in the description under the Report tab, does it then also populate in the View Full Report at the one glance?
Yes, so we have description available, and also notes if you were to have that as well.
Okay.
Great. And just to show, so again, we're entering currently just for July. If I were to go over to August, you'll see again, as discussed before, for prior cumulative expenses, there's still nothing showing. Do not worry. This is simply because that previous month of July was not approved. Once that is approved, you'll see that this column will update appropriately with your amount. So if you were to see this, again, entering it for the future months, don't worry about it. It's just simply it needs to be approved, and it hasn't been for that full process yet. All right. So I'm back in July. We're going to go over to our next tab, which is an uploader. So if I click on the uploader tab, this will now work similarly to how the ECM module works. The uploader tab is simply a place where you can upload any related documents for that invoice that Fulton County may require. So here's where you can go to enter that information. Again, you still have your contract and month options available, so it's important to set those correctly. And once again, you just simply click New Entry. You enter a document name, and you can upload your document. So I'll upload a test file. Once the bar is complete, I can enter any notes that are available or any notes that are applicable, and click Save. And at this point, this document is now been securely uploaded into the system. I can click View to view that document, or I can go in and edit to re-upload that document, change its name, or add some notes, or I can go in and delete that document if it wasn't applicable. And again, it's just important to note that it's always important to scan your files before uploading or downloading anything into the system. Just for security purposes, always best practice to always scan those files because you never know what might be there. So just always best practice. All right. And then our final tab in the fiscal module is the Submit Report tab. On this tab, once again, you'll still have your contract and month options selected and your report status. So this report has still not been submitted. Here you'll have two areas where you can electronically sign. So all reports will need a program designee and fiscal designee to sign. And to sign this document, all you need to do is simply click on the e-signature box, and that will pop up a dialog. In this dialog, you will also have two options for signing. So you can do an electronic or a text signature. So there's a text box above where you can just enter an item, and it will type it out into a signature format. Or if you wish to draw your signature, you can click on the Draw Signature tab, and you'll have the ability to draw in a signature as well. In this Draw Signature tab, if you made a mistake and you didn't want this signature and it's not correct, there's a little clear icon right below. You can click that, and it clears the box for you, and you'll be able to draw another signature. So once that is complete and you're happy with your signature, you can click the Adopt and Sign option, and you simply do that. And that's all you need to do, and that is saved into the system and signed for the report. So if I were to go back to another tab, Uploader, and then go back to Submit tab, you'll see that document or that signature will still be there. So again, that's important when you're doing your program designee and the fiscal designee needs to sign. They can take their turns and both sign. So at this point, if I try to submit this report with only one signature, you'll get a validation warning saying that both designees must sign before submitting. So it's important that both designees review this report before submitting to Fulton County. At the same time, if you do not click the affirm checkbox at the bottom, just to confirm that you reviewed to your best of your knowledge that this information is accurate for the month, you'll also get a warning that the signature was not completed. So above, you say, please read and check the statement below. That must be checked off as well. So if I were to go back in and now sign as a fiscal designee, I can adopt and sign that. I click my affirm checkbox and click submit this month to Fulton County. You have one less chance if this is an accident. You may want to go back and enter your data. So this point is your last chance to confirm if you want to continue with submitting. Because once it is submitted, the report will be locked and you cannot do any more data entry until Fulton County would reject it. So in this case, we do want to submit, so we click OK. You see a confirmation message pop up. So the month of July for the fiscal year Part A contract was successfully submitted. The report is now locked for July, and you can see any other month for a drop down. So now refreshing this page, you can see that the report status is now showing submitted, and it's also locked. So this now report is locked and no other data entry can be done to this particular month. The same as the dropdown, it also has been marked as submitted. So you can also see at a glance, oh, this month of July is now submitted and now under review by Fulton County. And by any chance, if you were curious of who was submitting contracts, so again, if it went for submission or rejection multiple times and you want to see when this was done and who did it, you can click on the View Submission History link, and that will bring up a little dialogue as well, showing each step of the process. So again, today, I submitted this report, and it was submitted by a provider. So going back to that main reports tab, I am on the month of July, so now it is locked. I can still click on each individual category just to view the expenditures, but now I only have the view action. So I can just view that entry. I cannot add or edit any entries anymore because that month is locked. So that's important just to remember that icon. And it works the same way for the uploader as well. You can only view the document or view with the record. Are there any questions at this point about the fiscal module?
How do you get a copy of what was submitted? Like either an Excel file or a PDF file to file?
So for the administrators, once they go through their approval process and it is approved by them, they have the ability to upload or download a PDF file of that particular invoice for that month, which I'll be just showing in a bit as well.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding the signatures. Will the program designee and fiscal designee have to log in and authorize that signature pane, or how does that work?
Yes. Yes, they would.
Okay.
Yep, you'll just simply have to log in, review that month, and then their appropriate designee will just sign that area. And then once both signatures are there, they can just submit that month. All right, any other questions? All right, so now I want to go and move over to Fulton County side, just to review their process as well, to complete this step of getting an approved invoice. So let me just pull up my other screen. Just give me a second. Just going to switch screens now. Okay. So now on Fulton County side, so this is now the administrator side and the receiving your invoice. So same as our providers, anyone with ECM access, you'll see a new fiscal tab right on the side next to the procurement tab. You click on that and you'll be brought to the View Full Report tab. So for Fulton County, you only have access just the view report. You cannot enter or edit any data. So above you'll have your provider selection, contract, and month selection. So we want to review the month of July that was just submitted. So you'll see a status of submitted here. And again, that also reflects on this report status tab. So you can see a status of submitted and it's locked. You can also click on the View Submission History tab to see who submitted it by that provider. So I can see I submitted it on today's date again. So for submitted and resubmitted contracts, these are the ones that Fulton County will be able to review on their end. Similar to the View Full Reports tab on the provider side, they have access to the budget summary table, so they can see the summary of their invoices. So again, we have that $4 expense for personnel and $300 for the other categories. Again, you cannot click on this. This is just simply for view-only purposes. And similar to the View Full Report tab on the provider side, the administrators will now also have a breakdown of each invoice entered here. So again, you can see my personnel one had invoice submitted for $100 and a contract cost of $4. I can see the notes that the provider sent as well. So I can see they sent test as personnel. And if an administrator wants to contact as well, they simply click on the note icon and enter in their note. So if I were to refresh this page again, you'll see my note is now populated there as well. So you'll see that now the note is in red, so that indicates that this is a Fulton County note or an administrator note. So it's just a quick way for providers to see the chain of communication and to see that this is coming from an administrator's side. So again, scrolling down, you can go to the other category where we had more individual items. We'll be able to see any notes for items and all our expenditures that were entered here. So if I wanted to add another note for this other item here as well, I simply click on the note icon and add in another note. And then finally below, you will have a view of the designee signatures. I can see the program and fiscal designees both signed this report. And again, you can just review all your information here. And if it's accurate, you can accept it. If it's not accurate, you can reject it. You also have the option to hide all notes. So if I check that off, I can simply just see all the invoices and not be cluttered by the notes here. But if I want to see it again, just uncheck it. And I'll be able to see all the notes available. Moving on to the uploader. Again, similar to the provider side, except now you can just view only. So you can just view the documents that were submitted by that provider. You can also view notes here. And finally, the submission tab for the administrators. Below, you have additional information to add related to authorizing that expenditure. Here you can enter your invoice number, receiver number, the appropriate dates, also your formula amounts, supplemental carryover, and QM. This will also adjust based on the contract. So if we were to go to an MAI contract or an EAG contract, the appropriate fields will be populated here. So you can enter all that information here. Just for test purposes, I will add $100 here. So once all that information has been entered, you simply click submit. And I have a confirmation, so yes, I want to submit. And that simply saves this information here that will be applicable for that contract. Finally, below, administrators have 3 different approval steps. So the project officer, fiscal manager, and director will all need to sign it. It works at a similar way. If I were to sign as project officer, I have the ability to enter my name as a text, so I can enter whatever I want here as a type, or I can click draw signature and draw my signature. So I click adopt and sign. As if I was only going to sign as one personnel, that'll be fine here. I will not be able to accept the report. I can reject the report at any time. There's no signatures required. But if I were to approve this report, you'll see as well all designees need to sign before submitting. And as discussed before, administrators have the ability to print their invoice. So if I were to click print invoice, it'll bring up a summary of all the information for that provider, your purchase order, the summary of expenses up to that point. And similar to the View Full Report tab, you have all the items that were expended to that point, so that personnel. And if you go to other, we have those 2 items.
The provider print this report?
This is only available to administrators. So this will be Fulton County.
And so if a provider needs a copy of this report for their files, I've got to go to my project officer to get a copy?
Yes, you can request at this point from them. All right. And then finally, the last page, you'll see the program and fiscal designees, signatures from the provider side. We have our pay this amount and all the formula and funding line items that are based on data entry. Funding line items can be entered for administrators on the service contracts tab based on your particular contract. You simply select the contract and you'll find the funding line items options available for these that can be entered on that screen. But below you saw that I signed as a project officer, but it's not available here. This is not a bug, but this is done on purpose. This contract was not approved by all 3 designees on the administrator side, so that's why this has not been printed out. Only once that month has been approved will the signatures appear on this report. That's just to ensure data quality, that if 2 were to sign or all 3 were to sign but it was never approved, that you don't have a documentation stating that it was done. So it needs to be approved first before signatures appear. Oops. All right. Okay. Now, for example, if an administrator did not like what was on this report, you made a mistake somewhere or forgot to include an expense, they will reject the report. So again, confirm it, and now this report is rejected. So if I refresh this page, the report status is now rejected and it has been unlocked. So on administrator side, again, they have the same view. They can just only view only. And on the Submit Report tab, there's no action required because it hasn't been submitted by the agency. So Fulton County cannot submit at this time or approve. So going back to the provider side, let me just switch for a second. All right. So back on the provider side, if I were to check out this month again, so I'm on the Reports tab, and I check the month of July, it is now marked as rejected. Also indicated on the report status, and it's also unlocked. So again, checking the submissions tab, I can see that the latest tab was rejected and rejected by Fulton County. So what this means is now I can make edits to this contract once again. So I can click on that personnel, check out those expenses, make any edits, or add any new entries as well if as needed. And if I were to view the full reports tab, I can view all notes per particular line item. So I can see if there were any notes by Fulton County, again, indicated by anything in red, I can make those adjustments where as needed. And again, as under the other item, any notes will also appear. So once all your changes are complete, you can head back to the Submit Report tab. Once again, you will need to have a signature by both designees to make sure everything is good. So if I were to approve both of these now, check off that I affirm the information is correct and click Submit. I can now resubmit this report. So now the status is now resubmitted. I want to head back now to Fulton County side. So going back to View Full Report for the month of July, it's now been updated as resubmitted. So it's resubmitted and locked. I can review my information. So everything stays the same. I can view line items and add any notes where applicable. So this time I think this report is all right and we're good to approve. All three designees must sign. So I will go through and sign all three. So once all three signatures have been approved here, I simply click Approve this report. I confirm this message. And now the month of July has been approved for this county. So going back to the Status tab, I have now an approved for this month and an approved status here, and it's still locked since it's now approved by county, so no more changes can be done. The same thing for Fulton County side. I cannot make any changes to the formula amounts or invoice numbers once it's been approved. It is locked, so I can't make changes here. And now if I were to go to the print invoice, once it generates, I'll have again my summary of reimbursements. And if I go back to that last page after the summary, below you'll see all the signatures from the respective designees now appear. So again, once again, if that doesn't appear, that means that month did not get approved. And this is just to ensure data quality, that you're not printing any documents that were not officially approved by the county. So once that is done, you'll see all the signatures appear. If a provider would like to have this document, just request it from your project officer at this time, and they can provide you a copy. But that completes, yes.
Hey, this is Jeff. How are you? So just to clarify, an agency can always submit, can always print a copy of the invoice that they signed and they submit to us. Is that correct?
This will be administrative. So anyone from Fulton County can submit or print out.
I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about if I'm an agency and I've entered my stuff and I've signed it and I'm sending it off to Fulton, am I able to print that?
No, not at this time. You have the ability to view everything, but not print this time.
Okay. So what I'm reading from the comments from agencies is they will need the ability to print those because their auditors are going to want to see that. So we can talk about that on Friday.
All right, that sounds good. I'll make a note of that.
All right, thank you.
All right. So yeah, once that is approved, that completes the full life cycle of a invoice for a month. So let me just head back to that provider. So again, refreshing this tab to say I came back. Oh, now this month is approved. Now we have the month of July approved. We have a status showing, and it's also locked. So now I go to my reports tab again. Once again, I can click personnel, but I can't make any edits because this report is locked and approved. And if you remember before, our prior cumulative expenses did not show anything for the month of August. Now, if I go to August, since we have an approved month, you'll see now that the prior cumulative expenses are now populated as in our previous month. So everything will show correctly once it is approved. So again, don't worry if that doesn't show anything. That is simply because a contract was not approved at that time. And just to show, I can go back to a personnel, I think personnel 1. And you can see the available funds are still reflected. So we had $4 expended off of him. And we just still have that $4 remaining. So if we were to go back here, enter another $100, select our FTE, the amount, again, we have a $5 reduction again, and that's reflected in the available funds. So I can just save that record. And then again, everything else is calculated. Our year to date is now calculated correctly based off all prior approved months based on our current expenditures. All right. Any questions about invoice submission? Either data entry or submitting a report?
Hey, Robert, you had a question regarding how do you change the TBN personnel position to a named personnel position?
Oh, so these are all named. So if I go, yeah, I'm in personnel. So do not worry about personnel 1, personnel 3. This will not show for you. I simply scrambled this because this is just a demo site. Whatever you entered under that record, so if it's Jenna or John Smith, that will actually show under that personnel. So don't worry about the personnel 1 or personnel 2. It's just simply for a demo site.
So Robert, I think what they were saying is when they entered the budget, they didn't know who the employee was. So they put TBD, and then they hired the employee. And so for the next invoice, they would need to go in and change the TBD to a name.
Yeah, so the way this would work, when we release the contract modifications, they simply go back to that record and update that name from TBD to whoever they hired, and that's how it'll show correctly.
Perfect, thank you.
Were there any other questions? Or any questions from Fulton County on their side as well? Okay. I think we can just review one last item, which are the reports that are available currently. So for providers and Fulton County, we have 4 reports available at this time. The only difference with Fulton County and providers are just the drop-down options. Administrators or Fulton County will have the ability to select a provider and go have all providers have that option selected. For the individual provider, you simply just locked on to, of course, your agency's contract. So let's actually go first to the Allocations Report. You have the ability to select your contract period. So that's simply fiscal year 2021 at this point. Here you can view a summary of your award for Prior A and MAI. So I can see my award summary, a breakdown of totals for core medical services and support services based on RSR, and our clinical quality management breakdown. So you have the Part A award amounts, the percentage of it, percentage awarded to that particular section, MAA account if that's applicable to your agency, and then your combined total. And then below, you have a breakdown of your awards by those RSR service categories similar to the above. So you have your sum of your core services and support services, and then those individual categories. So those are broken down. You can see where everything is spent and the percentage going into each amount. Similar to support services. And then below, you have your total allocation amounts. So this is just a breakdown and a summary of your awards under the Allocations Report. And again, for all reports, you have the ability to click Export to PDF or Export to Excel file. So these are printable. If you want to see this or have it for record, you can just simply click these amounts or click these options, and that will export to those appropriate files. Next is our consolidated list of contracts. So here you can select your funding source and contract period. So we're going to run for Part A. And here it has our funding sources for these particular amounts for all priority categories you spent. And you can see your award summary below. And once again, you can click Export to PDF or Export to Excel. finally, actually, we have one more. So next is our aggregate administrative cost report. So if this is applicable to your agency, you can select a month. So if we went to July for a Part A contract, and again, these all work off of what was approved. So if you're not seeing any amounts here, only approved contracts will display under the administrative cost report and the expenditures report. So just be aware of that if you're running a report and don't see numbers. It may be that your report under the fiscal module was not approved by Fulton County yet. So here you'll be able to see all your awards for service dollars expended. So this is just a total expended for your amount. Available admin costs. In this case, this provider does not have any administrative costs. But if you had, you'll see the administrative costs available. And then the actual amount spent up to that month selected, and then your percentage. And then finally, we have our expenditures report. Here you can select your contract period. This will be for Part A and MAI contracts, and your month selected. So I can keep month of July. I click Run Report. And here you have, again, a summary of your awards and your expended amounts. So in this case, we expended $305.01 for the month of July. And this is accumulative up to that month selected. So if we had information entered and approved for March, April, May, and June, this would also accumulate up to that month that is selected. So there's a general summary table above for the first one. And then below you have a breakdown by RSR service categories. So our first, of course, is the core medical services. And then below is our support medical services. And you have your expended amount displayed below by the appropriate priority category selected. Once again, you can see your expended amount, the percent that made up that amount, the Part A total, and if there are any AI contracts there, you'll see that amount as well, plus the combined total of those two, the combined totals of those two contracts. Similarly, as for support services, again, you'll see your Part A amount, any MAI amounts expended, and then the total amounts of those both MAI and Part A amounts combined. And then lastly, below, you'll have your total of your services expended. And then if applicable for clinical quantity management, you'll see any amounts expended there as well, plus the total amount for the entire report. And as with our other reports, you can always export to a PDF or Excel for this report as well. All right, and any questions with reports? All right. Yeah, so any further questions with the fiscal reports or the fiscal module itself?
I have a question or clarification. Yep. To Elaine's point and Porter, regarding a report for invoices submitted, are you looking to see what's submitted or what's been approved as far as what you want to print out?
What's been submitted, like the form that we send in every month.
Okay.
I mean, if we get it, if it gets sent back to us after it's approved, that's okay too. But our auditors pull things from our files every year, and they're gonna, if I don't have anything except my scribbles on paper to enter into the system, they're not gonna take that.
Okay, so you want what's submitted.
And the expenditures report that he just showed us is a summary report. I need a detailed report from the data that's entered.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks.
All right. Any other further questions or any comments? All right. I think that's then it for the fiscal module. Again, this is still a work in progress, so as we continue to use the module, there may be features, reports, or items that need to be added or approved on. But I just want to thank you all for taking the time today to review the fiscal module with us. And at any time, just feel free to contact your team or us if for any feedback to help us improve the system.
I'm sorry, on the screen is contact information for myself and our team. It's data manager and data specialist Warner Herman, and also your project officer currently Vanessa. These is our information if you need to contact us regarding the fiscal module when the Department of DHE. And if you have any questions for RDE, please send an email to support@e2Fulton.org. And their phone number is listed here as well. And their hours of operation are between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Those are ways you can contact either our office or RDE. So again, I want to thank you very much for your participation, your attendance here on today's training for the invoice and the fiscal module. Thanks very much, Robert from RDE, for giving a demo. And again, we thank you very much for all your feedback you're giving us. We'll look to those and discuss those on our call on Friday. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And we talk to you guys. Yes.
So you're going to post a copy of this recording on the website. Will you also post the slide set that you had that has the phone numbers?
Yeah, I'll do that. And Vanessa, I have yet to Vanessa, she'll send it out to the designees.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. And thanks, Robert. Thanks, Warren. Great job.